Okay.
Bro.
Yeah.
I don't have any more.
No. Okay, so we're
And that's a wrap.
big move podcast.
We'll see you there.
Episode 23. Had a little bit of a false start.
Jeez.
So let's
So the podcast is over because we've already been doing it apparently and not knowing
no,
it.
not recording. Let's just catch the listeners up on where we left off
Okay.
last week. You
All
were
right.
on vacation with your family.
Yes.
Would you consider Northern California? Is it Northern?
That's definitely
no, definitely Northern California.
Yeah, Napa.
Napa.
Napa County, yep.
Celebrating was a birthday.
Yep, my cousin Tim's birthday. So I guess we were up to the point in which we left off last podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we were celebrating Tim's birthday.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess, basically, it's a really weird, eerie type of scary area, and one in which when we showed up, it was expected. Like, we knew that this person had dealt with people renting this property before and wasn't happy that people were showing up.
But to just be clear, that person wasn't the homeowner; it was a neighbor.
It was the neighbor.
Neighbor, okay.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
upset that the person was renting this place out and
Well,
stuff
yeah,
was happening.
Yeah. I mean, there was apparently a frat party the weekend before, and probably just get-togethers that typically happen at these Airbnbs. I mean, this is a fairly common thing. I see it at our Airbnbs and Verbos, that people go and they party at them. Now, we didn't have that intent to go there and just party. We weren't a bachelor party or a frat party or anything like that. Yeah. This was a family thing. However, there were some interesting dynamics in there, especially, with this guy being super aggressive, and then, my cousin, who's an aggressive, law enforcement officer, doesn't take any BS. So here, let me back up to the reason why we even went out there in the first place, and why did we go there? And why would we choose such a horrific place? Well, we chose this horrific place because of the crazy, horrific name, which is not that. It was Napa Lake House. It was a beautiful name, a majestic name that we thought was this beautiful lake surrounded by vineyards. But it wasn't that. There is no Napa Lake, and we had to wait to get the address, and we got the address the morning of, when we had all traveled to Napa, and he said, okay, here's the address. Because he didn't want people showing up early and so on and so forth. And that address just happened to be not at a Napa Lake, but at Lake Berryessa, which is in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, no grapes, mostly just like dead grass. Mountainous region, rattlesnakes, broken down cars, winding roads all the way to get up there. There was no wine tasting. There was none of that. There's Coors Light tasting up there.
It's so funny because it does sound like...
Probably some moonshine.
Yeah, it sounds like the introduction of a horror film.
It 100%.
Especially with that name, like Crystal Lake, or,
This is Lake Berryessa. Okay.
Not Napa Lake.
Not Napa Lake.
Turns out there's no such thing.
Which is a man-made lake, right? It's dammed at some point somewhere. And it is a big mud puddle, basically. And there's nothing majestic about it. It's hot. And we were fooled. But we had also piled all of our friends and family together. Not friends. We only had a couple of friends. But it was all family together. And we really didn't want to just disperse again, say, oh, yep, this isn't ideal. Go back to your homes. We're not going to do Tim's birthday or this family reunion. So we just sucked it up, and we went out to Lake Berryessa. And we went there. He was waiting for us. This guy was so irritated that people have been showing up and partying right next to his home, which I get it. Like, that would have made me irritated too. Like, he had a couple kids, he's married, I wouldn't want people partying next to my home either.
Sure. How far away was his house though?
We're talking 15 feet.
Oh,
maybe. Right next door.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Yeah, maybe a 10-foot, 20 feet, maybe. I don't know. Very close. So, if there's partying going on, if there's stuff going on, then they're definitely going to know, about it and going to be really irritated. So this guy is basically like prepared to greet whoever showed up, which was us. And he wasn't like, he didn't have boxing gloves on and a knife out or anything like that, but he had his beer in his hand and he was posturing as like, what are you guys doing here? And that's what he asked. What are you doing here? This is an illegal vacation rental. You're not supposed to be here. And then enter in my cousin, police officer, who really wants to nip it in the bud and say, hey, number one, I'm a police officer. Number two, back off. Number three, we have a contract, right? And so this guy didn't take that very well at all. And so that was just the start of it. That was what that guy wanted to hear, and it was like game on, and it was almost like it was orchestrated. It was crazy. Like the amount of preparation these people had, like they had a plan of action when this happened. And who he was going to call, his friends, the mother, like they had this, like this either happened before, which we didn't find any evidence of. And I had, spent a lot of money with private investigators. I don't know if they were good, but they couldn't drum up any information. I'm like, how could they not with this, such a hornet's nest of a situation? But anyways, we get back, kind of inside the house, and Tim pulled away and that guy, went back. They had their words, and it was like, hey, we're here for a thing, let's focus on that and let's hang out. So we all got ready for the lake and went off down to the lake and spent like 2 hours down there. Well, we come back and there was drinking. Tim was drinking down there, our friend Dallas and his mom and his sister and myself and my sister and my wife and my son. Like it was a family affair, and there was drinking. There was. And we got back. Everybody had a good time, and a very similar situation, but just this time extremely elevated. So now, as you can imagine, Tim's been drinking. This guy has most likely continued his drinking. And now we are at a situation where it's starting to get a little bit more physical and potentially violent. And so I went into the home and basically didn't want any part of it. I knew where it was going. I had seen fights before. I've been involved with, altercations either on the court or on the football field or in high school. And I knew where it was heading. And so I wanted to avoid it. I spent a lot of money on that house for that weekend. I had everybody there. It was a lot of time. And I really just wanted to avoid it. Now, did I chime in a couple times? Yes, I did, right? Hey, dude, get off our property. We have a valid contract. Shut your mouth. Yeah, I poked the bear a couple times too. I think there was a lot of that going on. I take full responsibility for that, for sure. But at the end of the day, we got everybody inside after more threats and everything. We got them inside. There's a very volatile situation outside, but we've gotten everybody back into the house contained. Now, there's details back and forth of who said what and this was said, but it was primarily between my cousin and this guy and his wife, and my wife started going back and forth. It was an ugly situation, but verbal, right? In one field by alcohol. And it was just gross. So once that was removed, we had everybody inside the house on the second floor focusing on what we were there for, which was to celebrate a birthday. We had my son Brody at the time. He had a little remote control helicopter. He was playing with his brother. We had people setting up presents. Now we had kind of forgotten about what had happened outside. And we had just kind of like started feeling comfortable and like being able to commune and have a good time. I was finishing up a prime rib that I had cooking since the time we got there, even at the lake, and I was pulling it out and getting ready to carve it up. And, you know, we're just hanging out, having a good old time. And there's a flash. We see a flash outside. It's dark outside, but we see like a flash of light. And a couple of us kind of go over to the window, and I hear, there's a truck here. And I'm carving the steak and, you know, just kind of getting ready. And Tim goes over to the window and he goes, oh, you know, they're here, something to that effect. They're here. And I'm like, who's here? And it was a little bit of panic. And you know, it was the neighbor and his buddies had now shown up. These threats, which we had all thought were threats, were actually real. He was going to, some of the crazy things he was telling us, I'm going to run through your house like a crazy redneck, and you're effing with Napa, like gang type of redneck. I mean, I fully think he was just under the influence of much more than alcohol. Mm. But they were there, and they showed up in force. And Timothy, being the noble guy he is, ran down there and leaving me with basically a bunch of women upstairs. And there was, you know, loud shouts. You know, they had, you know, come onto the property towards the front door, which was, we're on the second level, kind of overlooking this, seeing men come through headlights. And we're kind of overlooking this. And Timothy runs down there. And I'm sitting there like, oh, I have to do something. I can't just go let my cousin go down there. It's his birthday, family reunion. I just, you know, so I felt, you know, called to action. And I went down there, and I went right down the stairs, and I heard them yelling in definitely pre-physical confrontation type of speaking and banter, and not wanting to get jumped. I looked for something, looked for a weapon, looked for a baseball bat, a 2x4, anything. I'm in the foyer. There's two doors going out to the front underneath the deck over us where people were looking. And Timothy is surrounded by the men right outside the front door. Well, there's nothing in the foyer but a lamp. And so there's a door into the garage. So I open up the garage door. It's pitch black in there. I flip on the light, and right below the switch is a gardening hoe pitchfork. The shorter ones that, you know, not like the massive Children of the Corn one, but like the smaller whatever. Sure. Uh-huh. And so I grabbed it and I went outside. I'm like, these guys are not going to be able, there's no way they're going to mess with me. They're going to get off the property. They're going to say, okay, guy, you know, this is crazy. You know, like, let's leave these people alone. That was my goal. Like, hey, see that I have a pitchfork, understand that it's dangerous, and get the heck off the property. Well, it didn't work. It didn't work. They weren't scared of it. And the one gentleman that was injured made an attempt to grab it. And I hit him with it. I hit him with the side of it. I never stabbed him with it. It was what I called a hockey check. Mm. It was one hit, and that was it. There was no two hits or stabs. He tried to grab it out of my hands, and I hockey checked him, and it hit him on the side of the head, and he was knocked out.
Oh.
I turned towards the other men, and I said, get the F out of here, and some more expletives. And they grabbed their friend, brought him out onto the street in front of our driveway. And now, their statement is they ran and got weapons, and I don't know. I didn't see any of that. Timothy and I ran inside the home and put a big dresser in front of the doors and went upstairs and made sure everybody was okay and made sure people were calling the police, which there was zero service out there. Literally, horror movie, no service. We had there was a house phone, but it was a cordless house phone and zero charge to it. So we've been trying to charge this thing, get service on our phones, nothing. Finally, we're able to get through to somebody, but guess what? They've already called us. When they called the police before they called their friends over. Strategy, intent, craziness. They said, we're going to call the police on these people, then call our friends over to assault them, making us essentially not only the aggressors exactly. We were the aggressors in every sense, and then also giving them the ability to come over and attack us. We called the police first was their move. They even called the mother to grab, I guess, I don't know the exact timing, but they made these calls in preparation for an attack on us. It was that time. We had all of their phone logs. There was an attempt to frame this into, we went to Napa to attack this poor family.
Yeah.
I'm like, why in the world would we ever do that? And but that's the way it was framed. And so we're all there. We had the doors locked up, and more cars show up. More of his friends. Okay, the guy that I hit is laying in the street. He's woken up at this time. The wife, who's heavily intoxicated, is screaming, and it's just crazy. One of the daughters calls out of the window and says, before the hit, when he was screaming at us, I'm back up like 30 minutes. I'm sorry, our daddy is doing this. Okay, now that got switched to, why are you doing this to our daddy? When we all heard her say, we're sorry that our daddy is doing this. Everything got flipped, and it was such a lie. So back to the time, more people are showing up. The doors are locked. They're yelling, send out the skinhead. I'm the skinhead. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what prison gang they were representing, but it was in opposition to skinheads. I don't know. I'm not into that. I've never been into that. This is not an option. I have a Dr. Phil haircut if I don't shave my head, right? I shave around here, and this is just open, freeway, and so I don't have a choice. But they were calling me, send out the skinhead. And so I wasn't going to go out there. And so I was told by everybody, basically, you need to get out of here because they're going to come in here and get you. Police were an hour away. And it was just a mess. So I made the decision in the middle of the night to jump out of the back balcony through the back. There's no houses behind there. It's just open hillside and whatnot. And my goal was to get out of there and hopefully intercept some law enforcement or somebody so I wouldn't get basically, hung by these people who were looking for me, calling out for me, send out the skinhead. It was really like barbaric and old school, like weird, I don't know. It was like a witch hunt almost. So I couldn't find anything. It's pitch black. My phone dies. I'm climbing on the side of the mountain. I hear a helicopter coming. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I start traversing back up to the hill. And when I back up the hill to the house, when I get to the house, everybody's gone besides a few people in our house. The street is empty in a matter of maybe 30 minutes. Paramedics come. There was a life flight from a helicopter that picked him up because it took too long for them to drive this person with a head injury to the hospital. That's how desolate this place is. So that also made it look really bad because this is protocol. He has a head injury and they don't want to drive him an hour and a half to the hospital. So they life flight him. So I get up there, the police show up, take reports from everybody, make sure everybody clears the street. Most of the people from our party leave. My wife and some friends of the family, Dallas and his girlfriend, stay waiting for me. I finally get up there and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, well, the police came, took everybody's statement. They want you to call this number. And, when you show up. So they gave me the number. We packed up our stuff. We're super scared that we were going to be seen by some of this mob again. So we pile into our car and leave back to El Dorado Hills from Lake Berryessa. We get home about 2 o'clock in the morning and obviously stressed out, don't know what's going on. Now, I'm not too worried about this guy because he was up. He was standing up. Like he was part of the banter coming back. He had blood coming from his ear. He had to get 6 stitches in his ear.
Yeah, he wasn't unconscious when the helicopter arrived.
No. He was alert. And my sister, even, she was a paramedic. She was able to get outside of the house and blend in with the neighbors and try to aid help to this guy. So it wasn't like, we were just, my sister even tried to help him. Now, he was looking to fight me even after that. Where is he? I'm gonna get him. And my sister, was able to, provide me with this information. Bo, he was still, trying to get you. And, we had to hold him down. So that told me, I was like, all right, the guy's fine. Yeah, he's probably injured. This is not as serious as it is. Yes, I'm gonna call the police. I'm gonna, it's 2 o'clock in the morning when I got home. We went to bed, got up in the morning. I called my attorney first before I called the police, which is, what I've always been told to do. And so I called my attorney. I told him, I said, hey, Peter, check out this crazy story. And so I told him, I said, man, we went out there and we weren't expecting this. And yeah, I was talking crap just like everybody else. They came and attacked us. I tried to protect my cousin and my family. I used a pitchfork, didn't want to, but I hit one guy one time. And then I left and I came back and the police were gone. And I showed up at home at 2 o'clock in the morning and now I'm calling you, before I call the police. He goes, dude, this sounds like, self-defense. And I wish I would have asked more attorneys because that whole self-defense thing in California really isn't a thing. Now, had this happened in Texas, I would have gotten an award. Anywhere else but California, really.
Yeah.
So I talked to him and he says, I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it. You'll probably get a letter in the mail or somebody may reach out to you. They have your contact information. Did they get your cell phone number? Yeah, my wife had told me that she'd give them everything. So I didn't receive any calls that day and just, stressed out all day, basically, kind of wondering what was going on, trying to look up things online, seeing just, if I'm a wanted man or if I'm, what's going on, and nothing. So, afternoon, evening, it gets to be about like 9 o'clock at night, 9:30 at night. And we call it a night, and this is a larger home and our bedroom all the way in the back. Well, right after we go to bed, and I don't know if it was timed that way, I don't know, but there was a knock at our door, not through our intercom, not through the bell that would ring us in the back, but a knock on the door. And this is what it was stated. We knocked on the door. When you knock on a door of a house that size, you don't hear it in the back. You just don't. And, that's what set forth a chain reaction of law enforcement, basically thinking that I'm holed up in my property. And I don't know with what weaponry they thought I had because they showed up with an arsenal. They showed up with a Bearcat tank. They showed up with, like this urban tank thing, fully armored with like a turret on top.
Oh.
Now I'm sleeping, and we wake up to a helicopter, like we hear a helicopter and a bullhorn. And I hadn't slept the night before, and you know, I was definitely passed out, but I woke up to hearing these things, and my wife was like, Bo, something's going on. Like, you need to get up. And so I get up, and I see light underneath our door that's leading out to the hallway. And so I go through there, I'm in my boxers, and I go out through the hallway, and the front part of the entryway to the home, I'm on the second floor, is lit up. We have a bunch of windows and then staircase going down, and it's all lit up. And, you know, Mr. Belmont, you know, please come out. You know, this is the El Dorado County Sheriff's Department. You know, we want to talk to you. Da, da, da. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's talk. You know, what's going on? So again, in my boxers, I go, they can see me. There's just tons of lights through the front windows. I don't know what's going on out there. But, so, you know, obviously a couple cars, I was thinking, and, you know, they were prepared. Like, it was an immediate, like maybe I was, like, I had weapons. I don't know what they thought. But when I get down the stairs and I open up the doors, I am drenched in lights and spotlights with these little dots all over me. And a bullhorn down on your knees. I'm in boxers, boxer briefs.
Yeah.
It's very clear that I don't have any weapons.
No.
No shirt. Get down on your knees and crawl towards us. Crawl towards us. Of course, I start crawling. There's dogs, there's lights, there's dots, there's a helicopter, and I didn't even know that there was a Bearcat tactical vehicle, which is, you know, I found out that's what it was called later on. They make me crawl to the middle of the grass lawn in front of my property. They've come through both of our gates. There's 2 gates to access the house. They've come through both of them and set up basically a line of cars in front of our house. And with all the lights focusing towards the front door. So I'm crawling on the grass towards the middle of the property. About 3 or 4 police officers, 2 dogs come up, and the dogs are like within feet of me. And I'm on my hands and knees, no weapons, surrounded, and the dogs are going crazy, and they come and push me down to the ground, handcuff me and everything, take me up, pick me up, bring me to the back of this tank. It was a movie set. It was a movie set. I'm walking between these cop cars. I'm looking at all the clear this, clear that. They set me down on the bench of the back bumper of this Bearcat tactical vehicle, this hard metal bench. And this captain or whatever, he's in custody, subject, and next thing you know, these 2 dragnet guys come by with foam coffee cups. And they're, you know, with their suit jacket and their kind of just belly and their tie, and it's just, yep, that's them. Book them for murder. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? What are you doing? I'm like, you have the wrong guy. What are you doing? Murder? I didn't kill anybody. Like, why am I here right now? Why are you guys here right now? This is crazy. I said, there was a fight. I defended my family. The guy was fine. I saw him. He's fine. He's not dead. And they didn't talk to me at all. They just handcuffed me, stood me up. As they stand me up and take me to a patrol car, this guy in a ghillie suit with paint over his face walks by and says, back is clear or something like that. He's got a sniper rifle. He's been hanging out in my back kitchen, in the backyard, which was close to my master bedroom, which was all the way in the back. He's a sniper in my backyard. I'm like, who do you guys think I am? Who do you think I am? So I couldn't just say like I was a serial killer. Like, it was a movie set. Helicopters, lights, the lasers, the dogs, the dragnet guys. It was absolutely a movie set. And so they put me in the back of the car, and they're raiding the house. The SWAT team is raiding the house for whatever, for weapons or whatever. I don't know. They flipped up their couches. I see a SWAT member holding my son, my baby son, and taking him out. Then my handcuffed wife and my handcuffed stepson being taken outside the house. They get unhandcuffed. My baby handed to my wife. They're out in the courtyard. They put me in the back of a squad car. They take me through my gate and into the courtyard. It's a turnaround with all my other neighbors looking over their fences. What's going on? My wife is holding Brody and the police officer. I'm like, please stop, please let me kiss my wife. And he's like, the subject is wishing to, and he's just like, did it anyways. He pulled it on the window, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on there. She's like, I don't know what's going on either. And I'm like, kiss me. And we kissed. I kissed him, and boom, I was off to the El Dorado County Jail with I was the president, that much security front and back. It was crazy. It was absolutely nuts. Get to the police department, the sheriff's office, and they're booking me for 4 counts of attempted murder. Not murder, but 4 counts of attempted murder, which automatically made me some sort of spree killer, maybe, mm-hmm. which was crazy. So that's what they booked me in. So it's 4 counts of attempted murder, 4 counts of assault with deadly weapon, for this, for that, for this. Okay. I don't know where they got the 4th member, because there was the guy that I hit, 2 gentlemen, and there was a guy who showed up and left mysteriously, who I got charged for, and then mysteriously those charges dropped or removed. So there was another guy, but we were never able to identify him, and supposedly the prosecution didn't want us to know about him, so they just left him out of this whole scenario. But initially, it was 4 counts of all that, and so I'm now in the county jail. Still in my boxers, cold as heck, and just sitting there. They've mugshotted me, all the fingerprints, and I'm just like, all the things going through your head. Like, I'm going to be in prison for the rest of my life. I'm never going to see my family again, and my business is gone. My life is gone. I'm done. This is over. We are done. What's the next chapter of my life going to look like? God, what's going on here? Please help me. All those questions running through my head, and so I don't know what to do, and so basically praying. So that's all I had. I had that and a roll of toilet paper in that cell. And so about 10 a.m. the next morning, I'm just sitting in a bright, cold, white cement shell of a cell.
They didn't give you anything to wear or anything?
No, not at all, no. Wow. And then, I just tried to kill 4 people in their eyes. Yeah. They're not trying to hook me up with anything, which is crazy. But, and I'm talking to them like, hey, dude, I'm a real estate guy. I'm not like a bank robber. You can talk to me like a regular guy here. You can look at me, don't just treat me like an animal here. Just last week, we're probably watching our sons play baseball. Just last week, we were probably dining across from each other at a restaurant. Last week, I was probably calling upon you guys to help me with an issue at one of my rental properties. Now all of a sudden, I'm way less than, what's going on here? And it was just that. That was just like, hey, you're no longer a human, you're cattle, and you're less than that. So they take me to Napa and the back of the paddy wagon, right? It was this little tiny compartment of back of a truck. And so I end up in Napa, and the whole booking process again, and same charges and everything, but a little bit nicer of a jail, if that's a thing. And then they put me in security housing unit, the SHU, with with this gang banger tattoos on his face, and apparently he's wanted by other gangs, so he's protected. So they put two protected people together, one of which is an active gang member, but he's protected because he's got a beef with this other gang. So anyways, I'm there, and so there's not really a lot of opportunity for me to like kind of share my, like, hey man, cry or anything like that. So immediately I'm like holding everything in, just kind of putting up a front, a hard front. But I'm able to get a phone call. And I'm able to call my wife at the time and just say, what's going on? And she kind of just, hey, I've talked to attorneys, I've talked to this, she really, hit the nail on the head and just, wanted, because she knew this was not justified. She knew this was wrong, right? Now she's the type of person, hey, Bo, if you did something wrong, you deserved it. You better figure your stuff out. But no, she knew this was just a miscarriage of justice. This was completely wrong. And so she, did her due diligence and found all the right people and found out where he was and the guy that I had hit and what was going on with him, and what was the update for me in my situation. So we contacted an attorney. He was working on arraignment and potential bail. So arraignment is what where they formally give you charges and then set your bail. And then, but before that, they were all reaching out to hospitals and everything to find out where he was. And he was actually transferred from one hospital to another. And he was doing that because he was having huge problems with alcohol withdrawals.
Oh.
And it was compounding his head injury. So what would have he probably just been in and out of? He had 6 stitches in his ear and a concussion. That's what he got from my doing. He was having these compounding effects, which were much, much more serious. And so he had to get shipped to another hospital where they were dealing with, this alcohol withdrawal, where we have reports that he was drinking, liters of liquor and 24 packs of beer a day. Like that's what his thing was. Now that got changed to 1 or 2 a week. 1 or 2 beers a week. Mind you, he had a 0.19 alcohol level 4 hours after the incident. 1 or 2 beers a week, right? That's what came out in trial. We're like, oh, hold on. We had to get an expert doctor up there to say, no, 1 or 2 beers every 10 minutes. Like that's how much alcohol this guy had in there. Maybe not 10 minutes, but it was like 30 minutes, 2 beers every 30. It was egregious, the amount of alcohol that this guy had in him. So these withdrawals that he was having were just really, really bad, and they were compounded by the head injury. So he had to end up staying in, I believe, the hospital for a couple weeks. And then, of course, prosecution got a hold of them and really wanted to exacerbate just the whole thing. Like, are you sure you don't need therapy and counseling? Are you sure you don't need this? Let's send you to this professional. Let's send you to that professional. Let's do all these extra things. We have ourselves a juicy nugget of a defendant here with some money we can pull from him. Really, it's all money. It's, because at the end of the day, she got a promotion. The DA got a promotion after my case. Like she literally did. It was disgusting. And they put her best and brightest against us. And so immediately it was just a financial impact. My bail during arraignment was set at $1 million. Meanwhile, I'm seeing people that are killing people with $500,000 bails and everything. They set my bail at $1 million. Nobody dead. 1 guy in the hospital, 1 hit, and he's having compounding effects from his alcohol abuse. $1 million. So I had to put together a team from inside of the jail. I was allowed 1 phone call a day or 1 hour out a day. During that hour, I had to, exercise, shower, and use the phone. So exercise was out of the question because I needed to be on the phone. And oftentimes showering was out of the question. I had to be on that phone. So I had to like, shower inside in the sink and clean up inside the cell, because when I got out, I had to spend that whole time, in which you would only get 10-minute segments, and then spend another 5 minutes reconnecting. So you really only get, 15 minutes of call. And during that call, you're trying to speak with your attorney, you're trying to speak with your wife, you're maybe trying to get a phone conversation with your son, private investigators, like all of these things, bondsmen. And then after 1 week, I was finally able to piece everything together and bail out.
Oh.
Which was a miracle of God, because it was a friend of ours. There was a friend of ours who had a bail company and was willing to do this at a discounted rate. So I had to come up with $80,000 instead of $100,000. He would come up with the rest. But that's cash. That's cash that you'll never see again. Now back then, that was still a lot of money for me. Absolutely. That's a lot of money. And just to come up with that liquid cash, meanwhile, I have a bunch of construction going on. Cash is king. It was very hard to do that. But we were able to put it together. And I bailed out after, it was probably, 7 days of being in there. And just constant stress of, is he okay? Because that was the number one thing. Is he all right? And I got to be honest, not because I cared about his health, but because I cared about being sentenced to murder, or having murder. Like I was praying every day. I was crying. Like, this guy was like, "Hey, bro, you can't be doing that." And I'm like, I'm just like, oh, I've got allergies. I just was like, I'm just trying to hold it in and keep up a rough face here. So I bail out. It was a miracle. I got picked up and go back to the house. I immediately hug my son, hold my son, and just, it's just my baby. And, then it's pure defense. Now I'm out. Let's defend. Let's go. And then it was attack. Let's attack them. Let's attack their credibility. Let's do all these things, which, hindsight, there probably would have been a better approach at my defense rather than what we did. And so, but again, I wouldn't change anything. I just wouldn't. So it was all about the defense. It was hiring the best attorneys. It was about hiring the best professionals, which at the time I couldn't hire the best. I wanted the best. I didn't have much money, but what I did have, I was just using all of my resources and just pleading with these people. And all of them saw like, hey, you need help here. This is not right. So a lot of it was people saying, hey, we're gonna give discounted rates. We're gonna just do this for cost and really try to help you out. And so that lasted for a year and a half.
The trial.
The whole process. I mean, and no sleep. I'm telling you, I started drinking heavily.
Oh man.
I was just, I became just a crazy alcoholic. Before going to church, I would put beer in the trunk of our car, and then mid-service, I would get out, go to the parking lot, and pound a Bud Light or 2 Bud Lights, and then go back in the service with a piece of gum to stop shaking. Now, all day, every single day, I was thinking about this trial.
Of course.
I was thinking about other stuff, but reading stuff and thinking about it. There was not a minute in the day that I wasn't thinking about this or consumed by it. And so production went down, relationships went down, alcoholism went up. It was just a spiraling, just a horrific thing. And finally, the trial started, and I was just at my bottom. I mean, I probably would have drank myself to death if it would have lasted longer. So the trial started, and that's when I really saw how corrupt the judicial system is, like how the judicial system is not based on justice, and it's based on money. It's so shady. Now, I've come clean with what happened, and I take responsibility for my actions, and I should not have hit anybody. I should not have hit that guy. Should have kept my family in there. Should not have done so many things. Should not have let Tim run down there. Like, there's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, okay? And, you know, take it back? No, I can't take it back because that's just impossible, and God wanted it to be that way. But what I've learned from this is that that God packages certain things in different ways, but at the end of the day, giving us exactly what we need. And that packaging isn't always attractive or comfortable. So, trial, let me give it, where did I leave off? The trial, basically, I got back. We're in full battle mode, if you will. And getting all the professionals, getting all these experts, people are helping out. And trial starts, and I'm just basically just a mess. Just a mess. Not in any condition to like really represent who I truly am to any type of jury. I probably had just massive circles under my eyes. I just was in there in a like aggressive mode, not in just Bo mode, just like, hey, this is what it is. It was more like, this is how bad these people are, bad. And the trial lasted for a month. And it was very expensive, $1,800 a day for my attorneys. I had two of them. I had to tell one of them to leave because I just couldn't afford her anymore. I couldn't even afford him. And the judicial system, how they operate is focused on winning, not necessarily justice. Now, there are great attorneys out there, great DAs, there are great detectives out there. But at the end of the day, their promotion is based on performance. And if their performance is dictated on successful transactions, then that really, really throws a bias in that whole process. They don't get promotions on lost cases, which is probably what they should, because here's something that they didn't pursue. They said, this guy is innocent or this girl is innocent, and we're going to go ahead and lose this one because this person's innocent. We'll accept that. Now, that's hard to accept rather than, yeah, it's a little shaky. I may not have all the information, but we're going to do everything we can to convict this person. And in doing so, we're going to lie through our teeth. The whole process of them preparing their witnesses to bringing on professionals was a charade. It was a complete show. It was a joke. They were putting police officers on stand that had never been to the scene, had very little correlation with the whole situation, didn't know what happened, maybe had taken a statement from one of the people involved at the hospital. But now they get to show up in full gear, obviously representing state and local officials who are bound by honesty and integrity. And here they load up their witness schedule with 22 law enforcement officers and medical staff. Meanwhile, they have 3 people who are actual witnesses, but 22 witnesses to bolster their claims of how horrible I am, how egregious the injuries were, and how righteous the prosecution is for convicting or prosecuting me. Meanwhile, I'm having to get professionals up there and pay them $10,000 just to sit in that seat. I have a limited budget. They have an unlimited budget. I'm having to fight for my life. They're fighting for a promotion. They have unlimited budget and unlimited resources. It was absolutely a losing battle. There was no way I could compete with what they had. But at the end of the day, I nearly won.
Wow.
I believe there was 18 felonies or 19 felonies, and I was convicted of 2. So when the jury went to deliberation, trial had come to an end. The DA said, hey, at the closing arguments, they get to speak last. I understand the optics. I understand how this all looks. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that Mr. Belmont brought a pitchfork to a fist fight. And so we didn't agree to any fist fight. I didn't invite these people onto my property. Like, nobody wanted a fist fight. And I did bring a pitchfork. I did, for safety. But she literally admitted that the optics were bad on her end for everybody. Like, yeah, they probably shouldn't have showed up. They probably shouldn't have had so many people. They probably shouldn't have made those threats, because their threats were death threats. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to come kick your butt. No, we're going to come through your house and kill all of you, is what their threats were. All of our witnesses, all of our real witnesses, which we had 9, said they were going to kill us. They were going to call their friends, they were going to show up, and they were going to kill us. We thought they were fake threats. They were real threats. They showed up and tried to come inside the house. They became real. That's what the DA was referring to. The optics aren't good. But at the end of the day, they didn't get caught with any weapons, and the only person that admitted to one was the defendant, and he brought a pitchfork to a fist fight, and for those reasons, you must find him guilty according to Penal Code, section so on and so forth, subsection this. And there was no way out of it. We're like, yes, I did have a weapon. No, they did not have a weapon. I admitted that they did not. I did not see a weapon on them. I said that. I was the first one. But did you see a weapon on them? Now, if I would have said, yeah, I saw a weapon on them, then they would have had to prove that they didn't have a weapon. Then I would have been better chances of self-defense. But I was honest. I didn't see a weapon. There was 3 of them. That was a weapon. To me, that was a weapon. Yeah. And so I couldn't avoid that. So they charged me with assault with a deadly weapon. That's a deadly weapon if I ever saw one. I mean, it's pretty crazy and barbaric, and one that I never intentionally wanted to use. I never. Oh, I want to that's barbaric and medieval, and I just would never do that. And then the second charge was mayhem, which I thought was a stretch. But when you read the rules of that law, it does fit in that category. And it's to maim somebody, which is to scar them by any means on their ears, nose, mouth, any facial, and he had 6 stitches in his ear. So when he fell, he hit the ground and he had 6 stitches.
That wasn't from the strike.
No, I hit him in the temple. Okay. That's where he fell. He was knocked out, and then the 6 stitches in his ear. At least that's what I was told. I didn't line up anything, but 6 stitches in his ear. So his ear had a scar on there. So it permanently disfigured him, the poor guy. And so that is my mayhem charge. And so assault with a deadly weapon in mayhem. And that is when I was basically swarmed by sheriff inside the courthouse. So the courthouse was filled when jury came back from deliberation. All the chairs in there were filled with basically my friends and family, and very, very few people, if any, for the prosecution. The only people that they had on their side were attorneys, and I believe the DA's friends. Nobody representing the actual victims, because they knew it was bull. So there was nobody there. The jury came back. innocent, not true, innocent, not true. I mean, I'm getting pats on the back. Congratulations, Bo, you did it. I'm sorry it's all over. And then they get down to the last two, true and both true, both these last two charges. And my heart just sank. I'm like, no way, what does this mean? And George, my attorney, reaches over and he's squeezing my shoulder like, you're going to be okay. And I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And the sheriffs just come and just swarm me and, shackle me up and sit me back down. And the judge then tells me, it's like, you've been found guilty of this. You now remanded to the custody of the court, or the county jail. And they asked if I wanted sentencing right now, and so my attorney moved sentencing out a few months. And I turned around and like everybody in the crowd is crying. They're like, didn't go as we had all anticipated it. We thought we were going to win. Like everybody was super in sport. Like we just thought we were going to win. And God said, no, you're not going to win because Bo, you're a mess. Alcoholic, depressed, arrogant, not humble, like all these things. So boom, shackled up, sent back to the county jail where I was at earlier, a year prior to. Saw even a couple people that had never left. And I was there for 3 months, preparing to get sent to prison to find out what my sentence would be. And so at that point in time, it was more like coming to like acceptance of the whole thing, right? I had 3 months to kind of just say, hey, this is going to be some time, but how long is it going to be? How long am I going to be away from my family? And so 3 months went away really quickly. I was able to talk on the phone periodically, no visits, but just over the phone. And then comes sentencing day, I show up and of course, we're asking for like the minimal, right? Probation, parole, like whatever, minimal. They're asking for the maximum. Now, let me back up. The deals they were offering me while I was out on bail, the first offer was 25 to life. The second offer was 20. And then the offer right before I went to trial was 12 and a half years. Right before trial. And then before they went to deliberation, they said, we're going to still offer you that 12 and a half years if you want to take it before this comes back. And like getting me to think like, do I need to take this 12 and a half years? I'm like, no, I'm innocent. Like I'm not taking anything. I'll take probation. Well, none of that happened. The judge took into account my history, work history, letters, and I wasn't a saint. I had some issues as a juvenile. I had a couple DUIs. So I was no exemplary citizen, but I definitely wasn't a burglar or a robber or a murderer or somebody, a gang member, these types of criminals that you would typically see in prison. So my maximum for both of these charges together was 10 years, like exposure I could take. And she sentenced me to 5. So she didn't give me the max, didn't give me the minimal, she gave me 5 years. And she said, you're going to have to do 85% of this time. Okay, which is 4 years. Some change. And so I was sent to prison.
I don't want to. There's a lot more to this story to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to pause right there.
Okay.
Yeah. But go an hour.
Okay.
But I know there's a lot more to this story. That's a real important part of where you ended up now and who you've become, right? The Bo that we all know. Mm-hmm. That's a whole episode into itself, But it's a really important part of this story and your story. So yeah, I think we should wait and let's talk about it on the next episode.
Yeah, no problem. We can definitely do that. And also, it's emotional.
Sure.
Like it's stressful
Sure.
to like kind of relive it.
Yeah, of course.
But then again, I really can't stress this enough. Like, to say I'm glad it happened, it may sound inappropriate and insensitive, but I am. I'm so grateful it happened. And I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
God works in amazing ways.
Yeah, I don't know how many people understand that idea. I would say that I do because I've maybe not experienced something like you've experienced, but some pretty dark periods that I didn't like at the time.
Yeah.
But coming out of it, I recognized that it had a purpose and
Made you stronger.
made me stronger, and I'm a much better person for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God made us that way.
Yeah. Well,
Every time we get cut, we get stronger in that spot. Anytime we break something, we
Sure.
get stronger
Yeah.
in that spot.
and I feel like, but you have a choice to make. I think when it happens, right? You could either choose to be a victim of it, or you can choose it to use it as a tool to make you
Use it.
stronger.
Yeah. Don't be a victim.
No. Because there'll always be a victim.
Yeah, there's
If you feel
always
that way.
things that you can be a victim of. But if you can use these as tools to just better not only your life, but others, I think that's what God really intended by that whole process.
Sure. All right. One more episode, maybe.
What was this, number 23?
23, I think.
Excuse me. Well, we hope to see you on the 24th episode, and we're going to be doing a deep dive into kind of what took place, the transformation after I was sent to prison, and where we're at today, just with personal growth and business too.
Yeah. See you next time.
See you next time.